What's going on, everybody? I'm Matt Harmon. Welcome to the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast, and it is a hell of a day to talk ball. Week 16 was epic. Tons of stuff to get into. We've got Chris Allen joining the show in just a moment to break down everything that we saw from both the Saturday games, the Sunday games. Yes, it's that time of the year when there's just games all the time. So much good football to talk about. We're going to get to Chris in just a moment. But before we get to that, as always, we will start with a solo recap of Sunday Night Football here. Patriots 28, Ravens 24. A lot to talk about, a lot to chew on from this game. It was a fourth quarter to remember for Drake Maye and the New England Patriots. They're on their way to the playoffs for the first time since 2021. So congratulations to all of you long-suffering New England fans. You're back. You're back in the good graces of the NFL. You've got a great coach again. You got a great quarterback again. And you look like you're sustained for a long playoff run here coming up. Well, at least maybe a long playoff run this year, but certainly a long run of playoff seasons here coming up with this version of the New England Patriots. I got a lot of faith in what they're building there. And it starts with number 10. It starts with the quarterback here. Like I said, a fourth quarter to remember for Drake Maye. He is now undefeated in his career as a starter in primetime games. First quarterback to win each of their four career primetime starts since Lamar Jackson, who was theoretically on the other side of the field tonight. So, as mentioned, this game started off pretty slow. Was pretty concerned, honestly, with the way New England's offense looked. It was a little sloppy at first. Travion Henderson goes out in this game very, very early with a concussion, a head injury, banged the back of his head on the turf coming down. That wasn't great, so you get concerned about the lack of explosiveness in the run game. You know, Stefon Diggs was having some moments. We'll talk about him in just a second, but there did feel like a lack of cohesion from the offense very early on, and yet they were able to keep into this game, just kind of hang around. And then in the fourth quarter, as mentioned, it really was when things opened up for the New England Patriots, and the rest is history. Drake Maye, 380 yards in this game. That is a career high for him. And, you know, he's definitely going to be making some moves in the MVP discussion. I still think, for me, it's Matthew Stafford's award to lose. As we're showing here, that's kind of what the odds are at this stage. But that being said, Drake Maye can, make a push here. There's no question about that. If they end up being the number one seed in the AFC, typically the award goes to the best team's quarterback, especially if they're having one of those efficiency type of seasons. Drake Maye's efficiency metrics have been great all season long. If the Patriots end up as the number one seed in the AFC because they win their next two games and a few other things break their way, which is totally possible. Mathematically, that is a thing that can happen. Sure, could happen, especially if the Rams don't even win their division. Again, you can quibble, you can argue if that's right. It's just how this works sometimes. So Drake Maye is certainly still alive in the MVP race. And again, he showed you tonight why that is the case. For me, some of the plays that were huge in this one from Drake Maye, you had the go route touchdown to Kyle Williams. Man, Kyle Williams is going to be a player for this team. He's not a full-time guy in this offense right now. He is pushing Kayshon Boutte a little bit for playing time. Kyle Williams runs a route on 20% of the dropbacks. Kayshon Boutte, 64%. That was second among wide receivers behind Diggs. Again, we'll get to Diggs in just a moment. He has carved out a little bit of a role there because previously at the beginning of the year, even into the middle of the season, it was essentially just Kyle Williams was deep in the rotation. He would maybe run a couple of routes per game, and Kayshon Boutte was the every single down X receiver. That's not the case anymore, man. Like, they are getting Kyle Williams some legit run in this wide receiver room, and primarily as an outside on the line of scrimmage ISO receiver. I think that Williams can do more than that. I mean, it's great to see him have these big wins down the football field on the go routes. He has real speed. He has real ball tracking ability. I do think he could be the type of small receiver who is more than just a gimmicky guy, has to line up in the slot. I think he's got the route running chops for that. Now, I've said that about plenty of smaller receivers and been wrong about that. They've been kind of pigeonholed in these three wide receiver looks. Williams, though, so far has played as that X receiver, and I think in time he could do more than that. I think Kayshon Bouttie's a guy who could do a little bit more if he moved away from X receiver as well. So will be really interesting to think about if the future of this wide receiver room is Boutte and Kyle Williams. I think they'll add other bodies along the way whenever Diggs' time with the team comes to an end. But it does seem that they're grooming Kyle Williams for more and more. They're putting more on his plate. So from a dynasty standpoint, he is somebody that I remain very optimistic about. So that was a big play. The other one was the fourth down conversion late in the game to Stefon Diggs. There were a number of just big plays from Diggs tonight that just, I don't know what it is. Like, how do we pin the Steph Diggs usage down? I've talked about this a lot. I talked about it on Fantasy Football Live this morning. There's no discernible pattern to Diggs in terms of when is he going to be a full-time player and when is he not going to be. In this game, he runs around on 66% of the dropbacks, which, that's still not full-time receiver work, but it's more than 55%, which is what he was in week 15 coming out of the bye. So maybe that's something. It is interesting as we're showing this tweet from Brian Hines. Some of his best performances of the season, really his 3 100-yard games, have all come in primetime. Sunday Night Football against the Bills, 10 catches, 146 yards. Thursday Night Football against the Jets, 9 catches for 105 yards. Sunday Night Football tonight here, 9 catches, 138 yards. And so maybe there is just, I don't know, they're saving him for these big primetime moments. Maybe he wants to show his best on primetime. I have no idea. Maybe it's just random. Maybe it's just a coincidence. That's totally possible too. Because only one of those games, the Jets game in week 11, the freaking Jets in week 11, they win that game 27-14. Diggs runs a route on 89% of the dropbacks, season high. The only other game he's been above 80% was week 4 against, at that point, the lowly Carolina Panthers. Can't say that about the Panthers anymore. NFC South division leaders, can't take it away from him. So, regardless of whether you can play him in fantasy and if you can predict the big games, which I have struggled to do, I've been wrong about it a lot this year. When are the big games coming? When is the full-time playing time coming? I haven't been able to pin that down at any point. Regardless of that, man, it is cool to see him balling right now. It's having these big moments for a team that so clearly needs a guy who can quickly separate, can quickly get open, can make plays after the catch with the ball in his hands. In this particular game, he averaged 5.1 yards after catch per reception. Huge to see that there. He just keeps the chains moving here for this team. He keeps them on schedule. He, again, is reliable. He's where he needs to be. He's clearly a tenacious and fiery leader for this team as well. Running out the back door of the damn medical tent or whatever it was tonight because he wanted to be in that game so bad. This is a big game for the Patriots, and Diggs showing up here is huge for them. It's if you have Drake Maye as your fantasy quarterback, which, well, boy, I have one team where I have Drake Maye and Lamar Jackson as my 2 quarterbacks in Superflex, and I'll tell you what, when Drake got a little bit rolled up on there and he limped off the field, I was feeling pretty nervous. I was feeling uncomfortable. Your boy was not having a good time in that moment. Regardless, if you got Drake Maye as a fantasy quarterback, you're happy that Stefon Diggs has these big moments because that's when you see the best performance out of this whole passing game, man. So it's great to see Diggs right now playing at the level he is. He is 9th in the NFL in yards per route run on the season, 2.32, targeted on 25% of his routes. He's the only guy other than, injury affected players in the top, like 15, 20 yards per route running players who are part-time guys who are not really on the field every single snap. These guys that are over 2.0, it's only 14 wide receivers in the NFL right now. The only one of them who is a rotational option is Stefon Diggs. So on a per route basis, when he's on the field, he is impacting the team at a wide receiver 1 level. Is he a true wide receiver 1 anymore? I don't think he is the same guy that he was at the beginning, obviously, of his NFL career, his peak years with Buffalo. If you're a reception perception long-time backer, that Diggs was one of my early flag plants. I don't know that he's necessarily playing at that level right now, but he's playing at a level where he can be a huge driving force for one of the most efficient passing games in the NFL. Again, I've gotten this wrong over and over and over again, so feel free to completely ignore me about this. But these next 2 weeks against division rivals, Jets, Dolphins, maybe we'll see more and more of Diggs. Maybe we won't, and it'll be in the playoffs that we see Diggs being a full-time 80% route participation player. Perhaps. I have no idea. All I know is so far they've gotten a lot out of Stefon Diggs. It's been a great signing for this Patriots team. Elsewhere on New England, Ramondre Stevenson has some big runs for this one with Trayvon Henderson obviously leaving this game. 5 carries for 3 yards for Henderson before he left. 8 carries for 51 yards for Ramondre Stevenson. Had a 21 long yard run there. He also made a couple of plays as a receiver. So you ended up with a pretty good night out of Ramondre Stevenson. It's a shame, certainly, if you started Trayvon Henderson and you did not get a full game out of him here. You have to wonder what could have happened on that one. So the Patriots are going to the playoffs. The Patriots have a shot to get the number 1 seed. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Drake Maye. What's old is new again. What's new is on the Ravens side of things. They are a very long shot to get into the playoffs at this point. Essentially, what has to happen is that the Ravens need to win out and that they have to hope that the Steelers lose to the Browns in week 17. I don't feel great about that. You guys feel good about that? Number one, I don't even know if the Ravens could beat the Packers. The fighting Malik Willis is on Saturday night this upcoming week. Don't know if I feel great about that. Although the Packers certainly have a litany of injury questions they have to answer at this point beyond just Jordan Love's availability and the lack of Micah Parsons for the rest of the year. So that will be an interesting game to break down. Again, that is on Saturday coming up here. Beyond that, though, I mean, the Steelers, I know that Mike Tomlin every now and again is going to drop a weird game, but losing to the Browns, Shedeur Sanders and the guys in week 17, don't know if I see that one. So that's what the Ravens need. They also need their quarterback to be healthy, and he is not healthy. Lamar Jackson leaves this game after 10 pass attempts and 2 runs to a back injury, leaves the game here. And I thought Lamar looked pretty good before that back injury, but you could tell right away after taking a hit, he was uncomfortable. It's just been one of those years for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. One injury after another, just a lot of frustration, super annoying. Sometimes it just happens. I don't know that there's any big grand takeaway there. He's had a bad luck of injury run here. Again, I don't have some grand proclamation there. It's really frustrating. If you have Lamar Jackson, like I said, I've got a team with Lamar Jackson. I'm already putting advanced waiver claims in for Malik Willis. I've got Quinn Ewers stashed on the bench because it's a super flex league and this is how you have to operate. So I don't know. That makes me depressed to think about playing either of those guys in a fantasy football champion matchup, but it might have to happen if Lamar Jackson's not going to play next week. You'd imagine with their playoff hopes, dwindling, he will get out there and play, but he has to be physically right to do it. And certainly tonight he was ruled out and we didn't see him. So I'm not sure we're getting Lamar Jackson next week. Elsewhere on the Ravens roster, talk about the passing game here real quick. Tyler Huntley, it's going to be the type of attack that you would expect with Tyler Huntley. It's going to be a lot of get the ball out quick, all that type of stuff. We did get a big game out of Zay Flowers, 7 catches on 7 targets, 84 yards, and then he ran in an 18-yard run as well for a touchdown. That was great to see. However, his fumble on what was ultimately the Ravens' final drive of the game, it ended it. It was over after that. And God, Zay is just a weird player to figure out, man. Because you look up the final, or you look up the full league results right now. I mentioned Stefon Diggs is 9th in the NFL in yards per route run. Zay Flowers is 6th. And yet this is his 3rd lost fumble of the season. Tied with Miles Price, according to Jameson Hensley of ESPN, tied with Miles Price for most among wide receivers this season. Flowers is the only wide receiver with multiple lost fumbles on offensive plays this season. Price's fumbles came on special teams. Yeah, Zay has these moments where I always think back to the fumbled into the end zone play against the Chiefs in the playoffs of his rookie season. He's a good player. He's objectively a good player. Like I said, 6th in the NFL in yards per route run. I think he's one of the better, most underrated zone beaters in the NFL. Can certainly win on certain route concepts against man coverage. But to me personally, not quite a number 1. And he is. I actually think if you go back and read my reception perception prospect profile of him, I talk about how he plays with a lot of fire and aggression and separates against man press coverage for a smaller player. He can win an open field. Like you want to design him stuff in the open field, and yet he's just too mistake prone. That was the word I wrote about him. And he is a really good player who does all those things I just talked about, and yet he is very mistake prone in what's ultimately big moments. So to me, I think Zay is a great player, a good number 2. But God, just not quite a number 1, and this team feels like it needs a number 1. You don't see much from Rashad Bateman, my guy, anymore, which is unfortunate. But he has not been involved this season. And he's just a role player, anyways. Like, I have affinity for Rashad Bateman's game, but he's a role player. Kind of just a perimeter guy that's going to pop up every now and again. And DeAndre Hopkins pops up for like a crazy catch every now and again. It just feels like there's a lot missing in this Ravens passing offense, even when it's Snoop Huntley back there. Something's a little missing there. Something's a little off in the run game too. This felt like a game that Derrick Henry, I know he had the one fumble early and he was hard on himself for that, which is a bummer, but there's also just something bizarre about the usage there. Derrick Henry, 0 touches after putting the Ravens up 24-13 with 12 minutes and 50 seconds left. He finishes the game with 18 carries for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. And, Boone and I have gone back and forth about this year. Maybe there's a little bit less off, from like peak Derrick Henry. But when I watch Derrick, I don't see anything that's really missing. Like, I think maybe the down-to-down consistency isn't there, but I don't know how much to separate that from him versus the offensive line and an offense that I just think I am a fan of Todd Monken, but I think it's just kind of been a little stale this year in some ways. The whole Ravens operation feels a little bit stale, if we're being quite honest. So I don't know how to extrapolate some of that stuff or extract Derrick Henry from some of the rushing success rate numbers, which have been lower this year. It's been a little bit more of a boom bust run game. But man, tonight they were pushing that pile. Henry is getting to the second level. He's making those explosive plays. And it felt like they just kind of completely got away from him. Like Keaton Mitchell gets into the mix. Rashawn Ali's out there. And I know Derrick Henry's never going to be a passing down player this deep in his career. He never was. But still, I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree, but I felt it was weird that they didn't just lean on Derrick Henry throughout the course of this night because the Ravens were up, right? They were ahead. They could have just grinded this thing out, and they just kind of chose not to. So to me, I know that when there were the fire Mike Tomlin chants, in which obviously the Steelers have locked in, another winning season here. That just what is dead will never die. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I get it. So there was the fire Mike Tomlin chants, and some people were like, should we not be thinking about, John Harbaugh maybe in the same ballpark? I don't quite know how I feel about that, but there is a part of me that thinks things are a little stale in Baltimore. There's a little bit lack of creativity here this year, and there's just been some confusing things with this Ravens team this year. So I don't view this Ravens team as a playoff team. I haven't for quite some time. And it's just not one where we're getting anything good consistently. I think if you've rostered any of these players in fantasy, you've probably felt that too, where, Isaiah likely had a little moment and now that's completely gone. Zay Flowers, awesome start to the season. Lamar gets hurt, okay, but then even when Lamar's back, it's whatever. Lamar obviously up and down this season. Derrick Henry up and down this season. It just there's nothing that you can really set your watch by with this Ravens team right now, and the entire Baltimore Ravens operation has been for a long time something we could set our watch by. So weird season for the Ravens this year, and I don't know if there will be big changes for Baltimore after this year, but it does look like a team that is going to miss the playoffs. And like I said, when I watch them, and I haven't felt this way for quite some time. When I watch them, I don't sit there and say, man, if you just get them in the playoffs, they could do some damage. No, I think if you get them in the playoffs, they're going to lose to a team that's better than them, even if they don't have the same name brand players.